Hello and welcome everyone to day 27 in this quest for a 2000 rating, and this video is part 2. In the first part I played the actual game, so you can check that video out if you haven't already. And then in this part 2 video I'll do a quick game review and then I'll do computer analysis. So let's hit the game review button and see what the computer finds here. Alright, so in the game it looks like my opponent played at 68.3% accuracy, and then I played at 79.1%. And let's see, they had 3 inaccuracies and I had 4. So room for improvement there. Then they had 4 mistakes and I only had 1. We each had 1 miss, and then they had a blunder. Also it says, nice eye, you found a tactic to grow your lead into a win. So it looks like the game was pretty even, and then black kind of held an edge, and then until black got a big edge. All right, so let's start the review here and see what the computer finds. So this was the Grunfeld defense exchange variation. Exchange, I guess, classical variation with this bishop to c4 move early in the game. And I played it okay until I got to a point where, of course, I wasn't sure what the book moves were, which was, I don't know, after this bishop to c4 move. Let's see, what did I play? I played c5, which was correct, and then after they played bishop to e3 here, I wasn't sure what would have been best, so I just played this queen to a5 move, which targets this pawn here, with a threat of, if I hit the next move, it's going to probably blast through a bunch of moves. Let's see here. Anyway, we'll check more of this on the analysis, but my next move was queen to a5 here, targeting this pawn with a check, and then if he lets me, let's say he captures here, and then I capture with check, then I could possibly pick off this pawn, I guess. Or, sorry, pick off this bishop. Anyway, let's continue on here. Okay, so it looks like my opponent had a mistake here by capturing with the queen. It would have been better to leave the queen here and just capture with the pawn. Then he would have 2 strong central pawns, and he would be attacking my queen, which I would probably capture and then leave his king stuck out in the middle. But with not as many pieces on the board and the queen's gone, the king would probably be okay in the center there. All right, so once again, we'll take a look at that in the analysis with the computer. So it blasts through some more moves here. And then another mistake, king to e2 is a mistake. The game was close to balance, but now white is worse. h4 would have been better, to just start trying to move forward with this h-pawn, and possibly attack here and pry open the king side. All right, so moving on. Now I return the favor with a mistake here with queen to c5. I ignored an opportunity to take an open file with a rook. All right, so I did think about just bringing the other rook over, but then, I don't know, I was kind of worried about the bishop. If this pawn moves at some point, the bishop and the queen trying to pile up here. But, the computer usually knows best, so it would have been better to just bring this rook over here and try and take control of the open file. Then I would think they would probably fight me for that open file by bringing their rook over. So another thing to take a look at in the game. All right, so now they bring their queen down here to, I thought they were going to try and bring their rook up. Well, here says to bring the rook up and attack my queen, but I thought they might try and bring the rook up, swing it over, and attack down the h-file maybe. So c takes b5 here is a blunder because it allows me to recapture with a check. But now I wasn't sure if I should recapture with the queen or the bishop. If I recapture with the queen, well, they could go here, but then I would just capture with my rook. So maybe we'll see what the computer says here. Oh, it said the bishop capture was best, attacking the king. And here it would have been better to just block with the bishop. But at this point, oh man, black is just winning. All right, so now a miss. Queen takes f2. Okay, yeah, I remember that in the game that I missed that move. I could have just moved here, captured. Oh man. If I would have captured, how did they even get out of that? So they're in check. Huh. If I would have captured that, how is it not? Oh, okay, they can go up here. Yeah, so I overlooked that move. I remember in the game, as soon as I moved my queen here, I was thinking, oh, I could have gone here and taken that pawn. And by this point, my time was getting low, and you just don't play as well if you let your time get low like that. So try and avoid that if you can. All right. So, then we had some more exchanges. And this here was the mistake that allowed a mate in 2. So it looks like queen to e3 would have been better. And another thing to take a look at. Okay, then we move here, checking the king, and it leads to the mate. So, and that was it. All right, so it says you really outplayed your opponent in that one. Both of you played an amazing opening. The middle game was messy. Yeah, I agree. But you got the better of it. So they played, it says they played at a 1400 level in that game, and I played at 1750. So, yeah, we did miss some things. All right, so opening accuracy, 100% for both of us. And then middle game accuracy, they had 50.5 and we had 72. All right. Well, let's go back to the beginning and take a look at the analysis with the computer and see what they find that we missed. Okay, so we have d4, a good strategic move. And now knight to f6, kind of waiting to see what the opponent does, and it also prevents e4 from being played. And since they can't play e4, they play c4. And now we just develop the pawn on to g6 so we can fianchetto the bishop here. And they just continue development. And we push with d5, the Grunfeld defense, which tries to prevent white from getting a big center immediately anyway. They do kind of get a bigger center here in a little bit. So capture, we recapture, now we're attacking their knight. And they wouldn't want to capture our knight because then it would just help us centralize our queen. And now they attack. So they get the dream pawn center, I guess, here with both pawns in the center, chasing our knight away. So we go ahead and capture, forcing them to recapture. So now they have a fortified central pawn position here, but they are left with this isolated A pawn. which I guess could be a weakness in the endgame. And so now we just develop our bishop here so we can get ready to castle. And then they develop their bishop. And this is the Grunfeld defense exchange, but classical variation in the exchange variation. So now, at this point, I wasn't sure, because I'm still learning this opening. I wasn't sure what was best, but I decided to play what I played in the last game where I had this Grunfeld defense. I played c5 because they have this strong pawn formation in the center here. I want to counterattack that and try and chip away at it instead of letting them have this strong central pawn formation. All right, so they just developed their bishop here, helping defend the pawn in the center. So now we play queen to a5, and the computer does say that that's the best move. So queen to a5, and we put pressure on this pawn now, and threaten to attack with check, and then we would fork the king and the bishop here. So they move their queen up to help defend that. But interestingly enough, it says that it would be better to go ahead and move the bishop back here. So that's pretty interesting. I guess now the queen is kind of blocked in, but it does create this battery, the queen and bishop battery, and they can try and exchange off this bishop possibly. So at this point, we just go ahead and what does it say is best? Either castling or knight to c6. So I guess that's pretty interesting. If we go knight to c6 here, that would add more pressure to this pawn in the center. So that's something I'll have to take a look at. Or just castling immediately is also possible. And it looks like both of them leave black with a slight tiny edge. But in the game, I just decided to capture here. And then, let's see. It says that c takes d4 is what they should have done here. But they end up capturing with their bishop, which is still good, but now black has an edge here. They're 0.41 ahead, but they're attacking my bishop. So what does it say is best here? Oh, and this is something I overlooked. Well, it said I could have castled, but I overlooked the possibility. Well, now I can't remember. At some point I was thinking about moving this pawn up here to e4, or excuse me, e5, but that may have been when their queen was up here later in the game. So let's see, e5, they would just drop back, but then my bishop would be kind of blocked in there. So I decided to capture, and it says that's an inaccuracy. Now white is slightly in the lead, and it looks like the best move is to capture with the pawn, the c pawn, and then white would have these strong pawns in the center, and then at that point it looks like I should just develop my knight, instead of trying to just capture their queen. Let's see here. So the game continued with queen takes d4, which is a mistake. Oh, and if we go back here, let me go back to this move. So instead of that bishop capture move, what does it say once again? Just so I know in the future what I might play. So either castling or e5. Let's see. e5 chases their bishop away, I guess. So I don't know. Here I'm just going to have to research that one. I don't know what I would want to play in the future without I need to do some further research on that. So anyway, I capture, and then they capture with their queen, but instead they should have taken with the pawn here. So that's what they should have done. And then it looks like now the best move is knight to c6 here. To just go ahead. The second best move is to capture with the queen. But, that's not quite as good. All right, so it looks like knight to c6. Then they would just develop their knight to f3 and then maybe have the threat of jumping forward and have the bishop and the knight target this f pawn here. So let's see. Now it recommends, well, also d5. Now it's saying d5 is best. So if they play d5, pushing this unopposed pawn here, because they have a pawn majority in the center, and usually when you have a pawn majority, you want to push the unopposed pawn to try and get a passed pawn in the endgame. So they would attack. Now it says best is to capture. So the king would recapture, of course. And now, let's see, knight to e5 attacking the bishop. So knight to a5 is not as good. We don't really want that knight on the rim. But here we at least chase their bishop. And then it looks like either developing their rook to protect that bishop and giving the bishop up, or if they want to keep the bishop, just dropping back. All right, let's continue with the game. So after we have capture, queen captures, and now in the game we just castled because our rook was under attack. Let me go back real quick. Okay, e5 would not have been as good. I was thinking about this e5 move, but it was better to just go ahead and castle. So castling keeps black with a slight edge. And now white should have played knight to e2 or queen to e3. They played knight to f3, which it says is still excellent. And now, what did we play? Knight to c6, which is best. We attack their queen. So they have to retreat their queen. They go to e3, which is best, because they have to keep an eye on this pawn. So now, one move keeps the lead with, there's only one move that holds the lead for black, and that's bishop to g4. And at some point, I remember thinking about bringing my bishop up here and just attacking this knight. But I'm trying to think why I decided against it. I think I wanted to fianchetto the bishop and just kind of line up onto the king's side. But bishop to g4 would have been best, and then the knight retreating would have been best for white. And then we can jump up to e5 and attack their bishop here. So it looks like after this move, which is still good, and black, well, now it's saying black is still in the lead here. Best is knight takes e5. So bishop to b3 is still excellent. It looks like the best move is to capture, which is what we did. And now queen capturing is better. So interesting. Queen captures is better. G takes f3, which is what they did in the game, is the second best move. But at this point, no matter what, black has an edge. And now, oh, this is funny. The computer is telling me to make this bishop move. And I think I even thought about that in the game, but I didn't know if I wanted to double up pawns, and that might have been later in the game. So they capture, and it says that's an inaccuracy, and that black is ahead by one pawn's worth of material here, approximately. So let's see. Instead of that, they should have captured with the queen. So now we have b6. But that is not the best move. It looks like just bishop to e6, accepting the doubled pawns if they would have decided to capture there. So let's say, anyway, if we take a look at that, well, let me make sure. Bishop to h3 is also possible, and I do remember thinking about that to keep them from castling over here. But then they would play f4, and well, that is interesting. Let me take a look at that, because this looks kind of strange. But it's saying if I go here, then they can play. Well, now they want rook to c1, but this f4 move attacking. And now it's saying to just ignore this bishop that's under attack and play a rook move. Okay, and now why is this so dangerous? Okay, what if they go ahead and capture here? Well, now what? Rook takes. Oh, and there's going to be a discovered attack on the king. Sneaky, sneaky. All right, so now the queen is lined up. This queen is under attack, and the best move would be what? Going here, queen to g2, and then let's see, capturing here with check. Now, why wouldn't we just go after their queen here? I guess that's the second best move. Rook to g3 with a discovered attack on the king. But it likes this move even better. They can't capture because then we'll capture this rook. So with a check, well, I guess they could capture. Let's see here. But then we'll start chasing them around. Oh, no, excuse me. They can't capture right now because they're in check. Okay, so they would have to run. It looks like king to f1 would be best. And then we have queen to b5 like this. And then king to g1. And it's not looking too good because then, let's see, rook to b1, check, rook takes, queen takes, and now the queen is forced to defend, and we can pick off another pawn here and have a pawn majority on both sides. So queen takes e4. Anyway, this is how the endgame could have played out, like this. And before I go too much further, let's get back to the game action. So they captured here, doubling their pawns. And then I played b6. But let's see. Looks like bishop to e6. We could take a quick look at that. Bishop to e6. And now it's only the third best move is to capture and double my pawns. So it actually wants rook to c1 to help cover this. So what if we, or castling, what if we go ahead and just pick that off? Then we're going to recapture, of course, be left with doubled pawns. Now it's saying f1. King to f1 is better. How is that better than just castling? So king to f1. Why would castling be bad? Well, we'll take a quick look at that. But it recommends king to f1. But what if they go ahead and just castle? Well, now we just develop here, piling up on this pawn. They would go ahead and protect like this. And now it looks like rook to c5. So just getting ready to pile up even more. Rook at a to b1, attacking this pawn. And now, let's see, rook to h5 is best. So rook to h5. Then what? King to g2. So I don't know. We're starting to get into some crazy computer moves here. Especially this rook to h4. Rook to h4. Now that's a crazy one. E5 blocking the path of the queen. And then rook at h to f4. Oh, okay, so that's the reason why you want to swing over here and put pressure on these doubled pawns. And now c4, just pushing forward. Rook takes f3 to get the queen out of there. So queen captures, rook captures, anyway, this is some interesting stuff. I won't go too much further. Then we can just pick off a pawn here. And then what? Do they pick off our pawn? Well, then they have to watch out because we're going to threaten some forks with their king wide open like this. So anyway, I'm not going to go further into that. Let's continue with the game and see what actually happened. So we play this b6, which the computer says is an inaccuracy. Black is still ahead, but not as much. So now we have rook to g1, and it looks like bishop to d5 is best, which I thought that's what was going to happen in the game. I thought they would move their bishop and attack my rook. So looks like bishop to d5. Then, of course, I'd have to move my rook over, but black would still be a little ahead here. All right, so in the game, we had rook to g1 lining up on my king. And then I played bishop to b7, but an immediate rook to d8 would have been better. So rook to d8. All right, well, I don't know. It started to get tricky after that. So bishop to b7, we fianchetto. It doesn't like that. It wants the rook to d8 move to try and take control of this open d file. So now my opponent plays rook to c1, but amazingly enough, the computer wants long castling here, which connects the rooks and gets this rook over to the d file. And then the game would be almost even, just slightly in black's favor. So, yeah, that is interesting. And then we would have to move this rook to c8. Oh, okay, they want us to go to c8. Huh. You know, the second best move is to move to d8 and fight for that file because there's a threat possibly of forking the bishop and this pawn, I guess. All right, but rook at a to c8. Let's play that out. King to b2 to move up here to help protect this. And now it's saying to just check with the queen on a3. Okay, Well, let's get back to the game action before, once again, I'm veering off on all these different variations. So rook to c1, or excuse me, rook at a to c8 was played after they played rook to c1 here. So we're piling up on this pawn. The computer says it would have been better to just move over here with the queen and target this h pawn. And you know, we'd also be maybe putting a little pressure on one of the doubled pawns. All right, so king to e2 is played. And the computer says king to f1 would have been better. So what else? Or rook to g5, attacking my queen. You know, or h4. So a lot of moves would have been better than what they played. You know, at least rook to g5 would attack my queen. What should I do then? Well, now it recommends this queen to a3 move, which targets this rook. You know, and the queen will have to stay on guard duty here unless the king comes over, which probably won't happen on an open file. That prevents this pawn from moving. Now it just recommends h4 to start driving a pawn down here and trying to attack. Okay, so now king to e2 is what was actually played, and it says that is a mistake. And then, let's see, I played bishop to a6, the best move, which leads to, well, it gives check. And c4 blocking is the best move by them. And now it looks like queen to e5 is best, swinging our queen over to the center and maybe threatening to check from up here. But you know, also it attacks this pawn, this undefended h pawn. All right, so in the game we played queen to c5, but it looks like queen to e5 would have been better, attacking this h pawn. And now, let's see, rook at g to d1, trying to take control of the open file, so they don't really care about this pawn over here. And if they take control of this file, they could try and jump down on the 7th rank and put a lot of pressure down here. You know, so we would probably have to try and stop that. So, I mean, I guess we could play it out a little bit. So rook at g to d1. It does not like the queen. Well, queen takes h2 is the second best move, but it prefers this to stop and fight for this open file. And then it recommends slightly the best. Well, either attack the queen with f4 or capture here. And then, of course, we would have to recapture. And now h4, just start marching this pawn forward, which is, you know, under attack by the queen. Okay, but in the game, we had king to e2, and then bishop checks. The pawn moves forward. Our queen makes a mistake, but black is still ahead here. I thought about, you know, trying to exchange off, but they make a mistake here. Queen exchanging would have been better, but black would have still been in the lead. So that's probably why they avoided the trade, and they try to go after the king side here. But this is a miss. So better would have been to go ahead and exchange, but then we would capture with the rook, and we could swing this other rook over and apply more pressure to this pawn. They recommend going here, and now bishop to c8, which I guess keeps them off of this 7th rank here. So that's an interesting point, that now we've blocked the path of our rook, but more importantly, we're keeping them out of our 2nd rank here. which, anytime you can get rooks up here, that can do a lot of damage, of course. Okay, back to the game. So queen to h6 was played, and then we played b5, which was the best move, trying to open the position up and open the line of this bishop up on the king. So they capture, and that is a blunder. So let's see what they should have done. Either rook or queen to g5 would have attacked our queen. So let's see. This is more forcing. If they played that, attacking our queen, oh, that would have been tough. If they played that, we have to really be careful on what we do here. Because if we move to d6, well then, if we move to d6, white would be ahead. So it looks like queen to a3 is the best move, attacking the rook. Queen to d4, the game is even. So yeah, that would have been a better move for white there. Queen to g, or rook to g5, attacking our queen. But they make the mistake of capturing here. They didn't want to give up material, or were worried about material being lost, I guess. So they decided to capture first, and then let's see, we capture with check, which is the best move. And then, let's see, king to e1 is best. But at this point, it looks like they are lost. White is just lost in this position. So king to e1 would have been better, guarding this pawn. In the game, they made a mistake by going king to d2, and then I overlooked this capture of the pawn with check. Which I'll just contribute that, or I don't know, I'll say that was due to time trouble there. So anyway, let's see, king to e1, I guess we could take a look at that. So they go there, it helps protect this pawn, but now what? Queen would capture here. So I don't know, it's obvious why, well no, even if they did that, their queen could capture, which it says that's the best move, is for their queen to capture. But then our rook would capture, and now their king would have to move up, and then we'd pick off, or excuse me, it can't go there. It would have to move here, and then we pick off the rook, and we would just be winning with that extra rook. All right, well, let's see here, the final few moves. If we go back, in the game, king to d2 was played after this check. So if we go back, we have capture of the pawn by the bishop checking the king. The king moves here, which is a mistake, leading to a mate in 2, but of course we missed that. So what we should have done is captured here. So they're under check. They can't go anywhere except king to d1 here. King to d1. And then now we have, let's see, queen to e2. Delivering the mate there. So, sorry I overlooked that one. I have to really watch my time in these games, so I don't rush in the end and overlook the best moves, I guess. All right, so in the game I played queen to d4 check, which is a miss, but at least black is still winning in this position. So check, the king retreats to e1, and it says that is forced. Okay, so now looks like queen to b4 check is best, but instead we just capture, and then they capture with the queen, and now queen to d3. Let's see. So better would have been rook to d8 to just double up here to activate this rook. So in the game, what did we play? Queen to d3, and that's an inaccuracy. It looks like my opponent should have responded with what? Queen to d1, and that's what they played. So queen to d1, but now we can pick off a pawn. It doesn't even show. Oh, we can't pick that pawn off because the queen is protecting that. So, yeah, and I remember that in the game. We have to check first. So we did check, and it says that's a great move. Now the queen is forced to block here. Oh man, now they're recommending queen to a1 and we just pick off the rook. So yeah, we're just overlooking moves here. So we capture, and this is still an excellent move. But let's see what it recommended. It says queen to a1 is better here. And then the king, well, no, because then the queen can just block that. So the queen would block, then we go back up to here. Then they would block again. And so we might as well capture that anyway. All right, so queen captures the pawn. And then we're also threatening this pawn. So they play, what, queen to e3 is best, but they make a blunder here or a big mistake. So with this rook to g3 move that leads to a mate. All right, so the best move would have been queen to e3, attacking our queen. And then I probably would have just captured here and doubled their pawns up. But it's saying even better would have been to retreat and threaten to attack back here. Which, when you have a good attack going and their king's out in the open, it's probably best to keep the queens on the board to use to apply more pressure. So let's see. In the game I played, they played the mistake move. So if they played this, it's recommending that. Then e5 attacking. And then queen to h4. To line up on the king. King to what? d2 here. But now we could check over here. Or check with the rook. Man. I mean, would we want to do that? Check with the rook. Anyway, you get the picture. Let's finish this video up. It's going long already. So back here to queen to d2, blocking our check. We pick off a pawn, and then they make this mistake here, which leads to a mate in 2. So now we have check. The only thing they can do is block, and then we capture. So this is how the game ended. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this analysis and it was helpful, especially if you try to play this Grunfeld defense exchange variation, and it's also the classical variation of the exchange variation of the Grunfeld. Let's see, make sure I didn't forget anything else. Please like and subscribe for those of you that haven't already. Feel free to leave comments or suggestions or requests for any topics you would like to see in future chess videos. Thank you for watching, everyone, and have a super chess day.